Look at any medieval castle today, and you see power, maybe a little romance. But here's what you don't see: the decades it took to build them. We're talking primitive tools, basic rope and pulley systems, and thousands of workers who died doing it. Falls from scaffolding, walls collapsing mid-construction, disease spreading through work camps, pure exhaustion. Every stone in these massive structures costs someone their health, sometimes their life. So, let's talk about what actually went into building these things. The sweat, the blood, and the surprisingly clever ways they figured out how to stack stones higher than anyone thought possible. Your eyes snap open to darkness. For a moment, you're disoriented. Where are you? Then it comes back. You're in one of the wooden barracks at the edge of the castle construction site, your body aching on a hard plank floor where you slept shoulder to shoulder with dozens of other workers. The smell hits you. Unwashed bodies, mud, smoke from last night's fires. Through the cracks in the walls, you can see it's not quite dawn. Good. The foreman won't be shouting for another few minutes. Every joint in your body protests as you sit up. Your hands are covered in blisters that never fully heal. You're back a landscape of pain from yesterday's labor. And today will be no different. Another day of hauling, lifting, digging. Another day of risking your life for a lord you'll never meet. Building a castle you'll never live in. Not like your soft bed right now, where the biggest danger is sleeping through your alarm. Your name is William, and you're a journeyman mason, not yet a master. That dream seems impossibly distant, but not a common labor either. You spent 7 years as an apprentice, learning to craft stone by stone, and now you're good enough with chisel and mallet to be trusted with actual work. Not the fancy stuff yet, but someday the barracks door creaks open, letting in a blast of cold morning air that makes everyone groan. It's Jeffrey, the foreman's assistant. Up, everyone up. Master Hugh wants everyone at the site before sunrise. Beside you, Thomas rolls over with a groan. What's the rush? The bloody castle's already taken 3 years. Another hour won't matter. Jeffrey snorts. Tell that to Master Hugh. The king's coming in a fortnight to see progress. Now move the king. That explains it. 3 years of backbreaking work. And they were still digging foundations for the main keep. King Edward wasn't known for his patience. You pull on your ruffled tunic, already stiff with yesterday's sweat and dust. Your leather boots are still damp from standing in mud all day. Breakfast is a chunk of dark bread and a swig of watery ale from the communal jug. Luxury compared to what the laborers get. At least the skilled workers were worth feeding properly. The sky is just beginning to lighten as you trudge toward the massive construction site. Even in the dim light, it's an impressive sight. The outer curtain wall is already taking shape. A massive stone ring rising from a hillside. Ditches for the foundations of the main keep have been dug deep into the earth, and wooden scaffolding rises against the sections of wall already complete. At the center of the whirlwind stands Master Hugh, the master mason. You can't help but admire him in his 50s now. He's been building castles since he was younger than you. He designed this entire massive structure without a single drawing. It all exists in his head, a complete three-dimensional model that he somehow translates into reality through shouted orders and hand gestures. William, get over here. You jog over. Try not to wince as your aching muscles protest. Yes, Master Hugh. The master mason is standing with a man you don't recognize, expensively dressed with the soft hands of someone who's never worked a day in his life. The clerk of works probably here to count pennies and complain about expenses. William, this is Lord Robert, the king's representative. He needs to understand why the keep foundations are taking so long. You explain it to him. You've got a clearer head for words than I do. This is unexpected. You swallow hard, suddenly aware of your filthy clothes and unwashed state. My lord, the other reason is the depth. We had to go down 30 feet in places to find bedrock. Lord Robert frowns. 30 feet? That seems excessive. You try not to sound offensive. The castle needs to stand for centuries, my lord. If we build on unstable ground, the walls will crack within a generation. And there's the matter of undermining. Undermining a siege tactic, my lord. Enemy sappers dig tunnels beneath the walls to collapse them. Deep foundations make that nearly impossible. Master Hugh nods approvingly. The lad knows his business. We build once, we build right. The king wants a castle that will last 500 years. Lord Robert doesn't look convinced, but he nods. Very well. Carry on. As he walks away, Master Hugh claps you on the shoulder. Well handled, boy. Now get to your team. We're setting cornerstone layouts for the Great Hall today. The morning passes in a blur of activity. Your job today is marking out where the massive foundation stones will go for one section of the keep. It's precise work. Each stone must be perfectly aligned to the others, and the whole must be perfectly level. One mistake now will mean a leaning wall later. Or worse, a collapse that could kill dozens. The sun is high when you hear the shouting, then screams. You look up from your work to see a cloud of dust rising from an eastern foundation trench. People are running toward it, others running away. Cave in, someone yells. The east trench collapsed. Your stomach drops. You were working in that trench yesterday. It had seemed solid enough, but with the recent rains, you sprint toward the dust cloud along with every other worker within earshot. When you reach the trench, the scene is chaos. A section of the 30-foot wall has given way, burying at least 3 men beneath tons of soil and rock. Get diggers now. Master Hugh is already there organizing the rescue. Carefully. If there's anyone alive under there, we don't want to stab them with a shovel. Men grab whatever tools are at hand. Shovels, hands, even wooden bowls. And start digging frantically. You join them, scooping away soil with your bare hands. The dirt is heavy and wet, clinging to everything. Minutes pass, then an hour. Your fingers are bleeding from scraping against hidden rocks, but you keep digging. Here I found something. A laborer a few feet away has uncovered a hand still twitching. The rescue redoubles its efforts, now focused on this one spot. Gradually you uncover a face. It's Francis, one of the foundation diggers. Somehow a fallen beam has created a small pocket of air that kept him from being crushed completely. When you finally pull him free, he's gasping but alive. His legs are badly broken, and he'll never work construction again. But he's alive. The other 2 men aren't so lucky. Their bodies are recovered as the day wears on, crushed beyond recognition. Master Hugh orders work to halt for the rest of the day, partly out of respect, partly because the ground needs to be shored up before anyone else goes down there. As the sun sets, the priest from a nearby village comes to say words over the dead. Later, around the fire, the mood is somber. Death is no stranger to a castle construction site, but it never gets easier. You're sharing a jug of ale with some of the other masons when Master Hugh sits down beside you. You did well today, William. He says quietly, we lost 2 men and saved 1. Could have been worse. He takes a long drink. This is the part they don't tell you about when you're an apprentice. The lives it costs to build something that lasts. You nod, not sure what to say. I've been watching you, he continues. You've got an eye for the stone. You can see the shapes hiding inside it. Not everyone can do that. Thank you, Master. I'm getting old, William. My eyes aren't what they were. I need someone who can check my work. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Your heart speeds up. This is as close to a compliment as the gruff master mason ever gives. I'd be honored, you say. Don't be honored yet. It means twice the work and none of credit. He smiles slightly. But it also means you'll learn things only a master mason knows. Things you can't learn any other way. As Master Hugh walks away, you stare into fire, thinking. Today you've seen both the cost and the opportunity of this life you've chosen. 2 men died today, their names soon to be forgotten, while the castle they helped build might stand for 1,000 years. And you've been offered a chance to learn the deepest secrets of your craft, to someday perhaps become a master mason yourself. Sleep doesn't come easily that night. The faces of the dead men float before your eyes in the darkness. The wooden barracks creak and settle around you, filled with the snores and occasional cries of exhausted men. Tomorrow the work begins again. The foundations must be dug. The stones must be laid. The castle will rise regardless of the cost. As you finally drift toward sleep, you wonder what future eyes will see when they look upon the finished castle. Will they see the grandeur, the power, the artistry, or will they sense the blood and sweat and lives that went into each stone? Will they know that every castle, no matter how majestic, is built on sacrifice? Just before consciousness fades completely, your mind makes one final connection. The foundation stones you're laying now will never be seen once the castle is complete. They'll be buried, hidden, forgotten, but without them, nothing else could stand. Like the nameless workers who died building these stone giants, the true foundation remains invisible to history. In your dreams, you're standing on completed castle walls, looking out over a kingdom, but the stones beneath your feet whisper the names of those who died to put them there. Dawn arrives within fingers of light stretching across the construction site. It rained during the night, turning the already treacherous ground into a sucking, clinging nightmare. You're back at the eastern trench, the same one that collapsed yesterday, killing 2 men. Overnight, the carpenters have installed wooden bracing to shore up the walls, but the sight still makes your stomach clench. Master Hugh stands at the edge, peering down with narrowed eyes. The king wants it deeper, he says without looking at you. You can't hide your surprise. Deeper? We're already 30 foot down in places. King wanted impregnable, says the French have developed new undermining techniques. He spits into the mud, so we dig deeper down to bedrock everywhere, not just at the stress points. A murmur runs through the gathered workers. Deeper means more danger, more collapses, more deaths, but nobody speaks up. What the king wants, the king gets. William, Master Hugh turns to you. I'm putting you in charge of this section. Pick 20 men, get them down there, and shore up as you go. I want solid oak bracing, every 3 feet, no exceptions. Your chest tightens. This is an opportunity, more responsibility than you've ever had. But it's also a death sentence if anything goes wrong. Yes, Master Hugh. As the master mason walks away, Thomas sidles up beside you. Congratulations. He's just made you the most hated man on the site. How's that? Someone dies down there now. It's on your head. You swallow hard, knowing he's right. Then we make sure nobody dies. Picking the team is your first challenge. You need strong men, but also careful ones. Smart enough to spot danger, brave enough to face it, not the drunk ones, not the reckless ones. You settle on a mix of experienced diggers and a few younger, stronger laborers. Jace, a burly Frenchman who's been digging castle foundations for 20 years, becomes your right hand. We use triangular bracing, he suggests in his thick accent, stronger than square, distributes the weight better. You nod, grateful for his experience. Show the carpenters what you need. By mid-morning, your team is 30 foot underground, scraping away at the wet clay. The trench is now 15 feet wide and will eventually be filled with rough stone, mortar, and rubble to create a foundation that can support the massive weight of a stone keep. The wooden bracing creaks ominously as you work, the only sound besides grunting and the scrape of shovels. The air down here is thick and heavy, hard to breathe. Sweat pours off everyone despite the cool temperature. Every now and then, a chunk of earth breaks loose from the wall and plummets down, causing everyone to flinch. Each time you imagine yesterday's collapse happening again, tons of soil and rock crashing down, burying men alive. Hit something, calls a voice from the far end of the trench. You slosh through ankle-deep muddy water to investigate. Digging in a deep corner, one of the laborers has uncovered something white. At first, you think it's a rock, but as more earth is cleared away, you realize it's a skull. Human old burial ground, says Jace with a shrug. Happens all the time. Dig anywhere deep enough, you find the dead. The young laborer, who found it, looks terrified. It's bad luck, sir, disturbing the dead. You sigh. It's just old bones, probably ancient Britons or Romans. They're long past caring. But the mood has changed. The men work more slowly, glancing nervously at the skull that now sits on a ledge of earth. More bones emerge as they dig. A rib cage, a femur, the small bones of a hand. You try to ignore the growing unease. Look, shouts someone. There's something with them. You peer into the freshly exposed soil. Something green glints among the bones. You reach in and pull it free. A corroded copper armband crusted with verdigris, but clearly ancient and valuable. The laborer who spotted it licks his lips. We could sell that. Split it. You consider it for just a moment. The copper band would fetch enough to feed a family for a month, but then you pocket it. This goes to Master Hugh. He'll give it to the king's representative. It was found on the king's land. Disappointed mutterings follow you as you climb out of the trench at midday. The men had hoped for a small fortune. Instead, they get to keep digging through mud and bones for the same meager wages. Master Hugh examines the armband with interest. Roman, most likely. Good quality. He looks at you with approval. Most site bosses would have pocketed this. You shrug. Wouldn't be right. No, it wouldn't. He tucks the band into his own pouch. But it also wouldn't be the first time. I chose well with you. William, after a quick meal of bread and salt pork, you're back in the trench. The afternoon brings a new problem. Groundwater. As the digging reaches deeper, water begins to seep in faster than it can be removed. By mid-afternoon, you're standing knee-deep in muddy, icy water. We need to get this water out or we can't dig deeper. You tell Jace. The Frenchman nods grimly. Need a chain of men with buckets. 10 at least. You organize a line of laborers stretching from the bottom of the trench to the top, each passing a leather bucket to the next man up. It's back-breaking work with each full bucket weighing as much as a small child. The water is so cold it makes your legs ache then go numb. Oh, sir, look at the bracing. One of the younger workers points to a wooden support. The constant water is undermining it, washing away the soil around its base. As you watch, it shifts slightly, groaning. Everyone out, you shout. Now move. The men don't need to be told twice. They scramble toward the rough ladders at either end of the trench. You stay behind, watching the bracing, calculating. If it gives way, it could trigger another collapse like yesterday's. All your work would be lost, and you'd have to start over. I can shore it up, Jace says suddenly beside you. Hold it while I hammer in a support post. It's dangerous. Too dangerous. But you see his logic. A few minutes' work now could save days of redigging. All right, quick as you can. Jace wades to the failing brace while you brace your shoulder against the main beam, taking the weight. The wood creaks alarmingly as Jace works, hammering a new support post into the muddy bottom of the trench. Almost, he grunts. Then you feel it, a shudder running through the wood. A deep groaning sound comes from all around you. Jace, leave it now. But the Frenchman takes one more swing with his hammer. Got it. You both turn and sprint for the ladder behind you. The repaired bracing holds, but another section gives way with a splintering crack. A section of the trench wall collapses, sending a wave of mud and water after you. The water hits you from behind, knocking you forward. You grab the ladder and haul yourself up as fast as you can, the weight of the water dragging at your clothes. Jace is right behind you. Just as your head clears the top of the trench, you hear Jace cry out. Looking back, you see he's stuck. His foot caught between two rungs of the ladder as the water rises rapidly around him. Without thinking, you plunge your upper body back into the trench, grabbing Jace by his tunic. With one desperate heave, you pull him free just as the ladder tears away from the wall. Together you roll onto solid ground as water and mud fountain up from the trench behind you. For a moment you both just lie there gasping. Then Jay starts laughing, a high wild sound of pure relief. You owe me an ale, you mutter. I owe you my life. he replies, suddenly serious. No man has ever pulled me from death before. You're saved for responding by the arrival of Master Hugh. Face thunderous. What happened? You explain about the bracing and the water. To your surprise, he doesn't shout. He just looks tired. How much did we lose? The eastern third is gone. The rest is still solid. We can recover. He nods slowly. Not today. Get everyone out. We'll pump it overnight and start fresh tomorrow. As the day ends and the workers trudge back toward the barracks, you find yourself walking beside Master Hugh. Every day we dig deeper. The danger gets worse, you say carefully. Yes. Is it worth it? The extra depth. Master Hugh is quiet for a long moment. Know what they call a castle with weak foundations, William? For what a tomb. He stops facing you. Everything we build stands on what we're doing now. Cut corners on the foundation. The whole thing fails. Maybe not today. Maybe not for 50 years. But eventually. But the men will die whether we build it right or wrong. At least this way. Their deaths mean something. He sighs heavily. The strongest part of any castle is the part no one ever sees. Lad, remember that. That night you dream of water and mud and crushing weight. You dream of men buried alive, screaming silently beneath the earth. You dream of a castle rising, magnificent and terrible, over a foundation of bones. Morning brings fog so thick you can barely see 10 feet ahead. The trench is a disaster, half filled with water and collapsed soil. But to your surprise, Master Hugh isn't at the site. Instead, he's called you to the drawing lodge, the small wooden building where he works out his designs. Inside, the master mason is on his knees on a huge plaster floor. He's drawing directly on the floor with charcoal, creating full-size templates of complex stone shapes, arch segments, window tracery, vault ribs. The precision is astonishing. Ah, William. Good. He stands, wiping his hands on his apron. I've been thinking about our foundation problem. He leads you to a table covered with pieces of parchment, rare and expensive, showing how important this is. On them are rough sketches of what looks like wooden platforms. Grillage, Master Hugh explains. We drive oak piles into the wet ground, then build a wooden platform on top. Spreads the weight, gives us a stable base, even in mud. You study the drawings, understanding dawning, so we don't need to go all the way to bedrock. Exactly. The Romans used it. I saw it in France 20 years ago. He taps the parchment. We can cut the digging time in half. Fewer men in danger. The relief hits you like a physical force. That's brilliant. Master Hugh shrugs. It's experience, not brilliance. I've buried enough men to last a lifetime. He fixes you with a steady gaze. You're the same, aren't you? You care about the men. You nod, not trusting yourself to speak. Good. Never lose that. But also never forget what we're building here. He sweeps his arm toward the window where the construction site lies shrouded in fog. This castle will stand for 1,000 years. It will shelter generations. It will stop armies and save lives. Everything we do, every risk, every death, serves that purpose. He rolls up the parchment and hands it to you. Take this to the head carpenter. I want pile driving to start by noon. The next days pass in the blur of activity. The new foundation method works better than anyone hoped. Oak trunks are sharpened at one end and driven deep into the earth with a ram. A massive weight raised and dropped by teams of men pulling on ropes. The noise is tremendous, a constant rhythmic booming that echoes across the valley. On the 5th day, Lord Robert returns with several finely dressed nobles in tow. They stand at the edge of the foundation pit, watching the work with expressions ranging from fascination to disgust. Impressive progress, Lord Robert admits to Master Hugh, though it seems a crude method. All building is crude, my lord, Master Hugh replies. We just dress it up afterward. Lord Robert beckons you over. This is the young mason you mentioned, the one with the eye for stone. Master Hugh nods. William, He's been invaluable. Lord Robert studies you like you're a horse he's considering buying. The king is bringing his own master masons when he comes. Men from France and Italy. They'll want to inspect everything. Your stomach tightens. Foreign master masons, with their advanced techniques and formal training, they'll find fault with everything. We'll be ready, Master Hugh says confidently. After the nobles leave, you can't hide your anxiety. Foreign masters will laugh at our methods. Oak piles instead of solid bedrock. They'll call it peasant work. Master Hugh laughs. Those foreign masters learned everything they know from studying Roman ruins. The same ruins I studied. They dress it up with fancy words and act superior. But their castles don't stand any longer than ours. His confidence eases your worry somewhat. But you spend the next days checking and rechecking every detail of the foundation work, every pile driven, every joint in the wooden grill, every stone laid in the first course of the foundation. On the morning of the king's visit, you're up before dawn making one last inspection. The foundation trenches are now filled with a solid mass of stone and mortar rising just above ground level. The oak piles are completely hidden. Their work done. Now comes the visible part of the castle. The part people will actually see. Looks good. Master Hugh appears beside you surveying the work. The king will be pleased if he understands what he's looking at. Oh, he understands. King Edward has built more castles than you've had hot meals. Master Hugh claps you on the shoulder. You've done well, William, whatever the foreign masters say. As the sun breaks over the horizon, gilding the construction site with golden light, you feel a moment of pride so intense it's almost painful. This foundation, this hidden crucial part of the castle that no one will ever see, bears your mark now. Your skill, your care, your blood and sweat are built into it. You know, the work ahead will be just as dangerous. Men will still die raising the walls, building the towers, constructing the keep. But for now, in this moment, you've completed one vital stage of the journey. The foundation is laid. The castle can rise. Come on, says Master Hugh. The king won't wait, and we have walls to build. King Edward's visit passes in a blur of ceremony and tension. The foreign master masons inspect every inch of the foundation work, muttering to each other in French and Italian. They find little to criticize, though they seem determined to try. Master Hugh stands proudly by his work, refusing to be intimidated. You watch from a distance, still too low in rank to be formally presented to the king. When the royal party finally departs, a collective exhale ripples through the entire construction site. That night, Master Hugh orders extra ale for everyone. It's the closest thing to a celebration you've seen since work began. To solid foundations, he toasts, raising his wooden cup. Now the real work begins. The next morning dawns crisp and clear. The construction site, normally chaotic, seems to vibrate with renewed purpose. With the foundations complete, the walls can now begin to rise. And that means a dramatic change in who does what. William. Master Hugh's voice cuts through the morning clamor. I need you. You find him surrounded by an assortment of men you've never seen before, or at least never noticed. They're better dressed than the common laborers with the confident bearing of skilled craftsmen. These are the stonemasons, Master Hugh explains. They've been working off-site until now, preparing the facing stones. You'll be working with them from now on. You nod. Try not to show your excitement. This is a significant step up from foundation work to actual masonry. Master Hugh introduces you around. There's Edgar, the head of the Freemasons who handle the fine decorative work. Robert, leader of the rough masons who build the main walls. Simon, master of the quarrymen who cut the stone from the earth. Each man has his own team, his own methods, his own pride. I'm putting William in charge of coordination, Master Hugh tells them. He'll ensure you get the right stones in the right places at the right time. The stonemasons eye you skeptically. You're young for such responsibility. But Master Hugh's word is law on construction site. They nod grudging acceptance. Also, Master Hugh continues, he'll be learning from each of you. Consider him my eyes and ears. Teach him well, with that simple statement. Master Hugh has both elevated you and made you a target. You're now caught between the world of the common workers and the elite craftsmen. Neither will fully trust you. As the morning progresses, you begin to understand the immense complexity of the workforce. The castle construction isn't just a job site. It's an entire society rigidly hierarchical and intensely specialized. At the very bottom are the unskilled laborers, mostly local peasants doing their required service for the Lord. They dig, carry, haul, push, and lift from dawn to dusk for meager pay and even more meager food. Just above them are the semi-skilled workers, the mortar mixers, scaffold builders, and assistants to the craftsmen. They earn a bit more and generally suffer less abuse. Then come the true craftsmen, the stonemasons, carpenters, blacksmiths, and other specialists. They are the aristocracy of the workforce, commanding respect and relatively good pay. And above them all stands Master Hugh, who answers only to the king's representative. Your new position gives you a unique perspective on this complex human machinery. You move between all levels from the mortar pit to the master mason's lodge. You see how each group views the others. Lazy bastards, mutters Thomas, a mortar mixer, when you tell him the stonemasons need more lime mortar for the facing stones. They work half as hard as us for twice the pay. Later, you hear the reverse from Robert the rough mason. These laborers are useless. Can't tell a tool from their own pricks. If I had decent help, we'd be twice as far along. The social divisions extend beyond work. The entire temporary town that sprung up around the castle construction is segregated by rank. The laborers live in crude shelters or sleep in the open when weather permits. The semi-skilled have their simple barracks. The master craftsmen raid individual huts, and Master Hugh has a proper wooden house. Meal times reinforce these divisions. The laborers eat gruel and the occasional piece of salt pork. The craftsmen get bread, cheese, and meat. Master Hugh dines on fresh game and fish when available. Even the ale is different quality for different ranks. The injustice of it all strikes you as you move between these worlds. But it's the way things have always been. And if you're honest, you enjoy your new privileges. Better food, a corner of the barracks with slightly more privacy, and the respect that comes with your position. One afternoon, you're checking to work on the west wall when you notice a group of laborers struggling with a massive oak beam. It's meant to support a section of scaffolding, but they can't quite maneuver it into place. Hold it steady. You call moving to help. Together, you manage to lift the beam into position. The laborers look at you with surprise. Craftsmen rarely dirty their hands helping laborers. "Thanks," says one, a skinny youth with a shock of red hair. Most masters would have just shouted at us. "I'm not a master yet," you reply, "and I was hauling beams like this last month." The redhead grins. "I'm what? Been here 2 months hoping to learn a trade, but they keep me on hauling." You study him. He's thin but wiry with intelligent eyes. "You want to learn masonry? Anything's better than carrying wood till my back breaks." You make a split-second decision. "Come find me tomorrow morning. I'll see if I can get you assigned to the mortar mixers." It's a start. What's face lights up. "Really? You do that?" You shrug. Everyone starts somewhere. The next day, true to your word, you speak to the head mortar mixer and get what reassigned. It's a small thing, but it feels good to help someone else rise a little in the hierarchy, just as Master Hugh helped you. As summer turns to autumn, the castle walls begin to rise visibly. The outer curtain wall is now chest high in most places. The inner wall foundations are complete. The keep is beginning to take shape. The site has transformed from a muddy pit into something recognizably castle-like. But with this progress comes new dangers. One chilly morning, you're checking quality of a newly delivered batch of facing stones when you hear a woman's voice, a rarity, on a construction site. "Please, I need to speak with the master builder." You turn to see a young woman, obviously pregnant, confronting the site guard. Her clothes are poor but clean, her face lined with worry. "Master's not seeing nobody today." The guard says gruffly, Got important work. It's about my husband. She persists. Jacob the carpenter. He didn't come home last night. You know Jacob slightly. A skilled scaffold builder who's been working on the upper levels of the curtain wall. A good man from what you've heard. I'll help her. You tell the guard, who looks relieved to be rid of the problem. You lead the woman to a quieter spot. I'm William, assistant to Master Hugh. Tell me what happened. Jacob always comes home, no matter how late, she says, one hand resting on her swollen belly. Last night he didn't. I waited all night. Something's wrong. I know it. Your first thought is that Jacob might have gone drinking and passed out somewhere. It wouldn't be the first time a worker disappeared for a night, but the woman's certainty gives you pause. When did you last see him? Yesterday morning before work. He was helping build scaffolding on the north wall. The north wall where they've been working at height, raising the wall to nearly 20 feet in some sections. A cold feeling settles in your stomach. Wait here, you tell her. I'll find out what happened. You head straight to the north wall, where work is already underway for the day. The scaffolding rises precariously, wooden planks creating narrow walkways for masons. You skin the workers but don't see Jacob. I'm looking for Jacob the carpenter. You tell the foreman in charge of this section. His wife's here. Says he didn't come home. The foreman's face darkens. You haven't heard then. Heard what? There was an accident last night late. They were working by torchlight to finish the scaffolding. He points up to a section where the planking looks newer than the rest. A board broke. Jacob fell. Your throat tightens. How bad? Bad enough. They took him to the hospital tent. You thank him and hurry to the hospital tent. A large canvas structure on the eastern edge of the site. Inside it smells of blood, sweat, and herbal remedies. Several pallets line the ground, most occupied by injured workers. Brother Thomas, a monk from the nearby monastery, who serves as the site's physician, is tending to a man with a bandaged arm. You wait impatiently for him to finish. I'm looking for Jacob, the carpenter. You say when he turns to you. Fell from the scaffolding last night. Brother Thomas's expression tells you everything before he speaks. I'm sorry. He died an hour before dawn. Internal bleeding, I think. Nothing I could do. His wife is here, pregnant with her child. The monk sighs heavily. Bring her. She should see him before they bury him. Walking back to get Jacob's wife is one of the hardest things you've ever done. Looking into her hopeful face. And destroying that hope with a few words is even harder. I'm sorry. You say there was an accident. Jacob fell from the scaffolding. He didn't survive. She doesn't cry, doesn't scream, just places both hands on her belly and stares at you as if you're speaking a foreign language. No, she says finally. No, you're mistaken. Not Jacob. He's careful, always careful. I'm so sorry, you repeat helplessly. You walk her to the hospital tent. Watch as she kneels beside her husband's body. Only then does she break, collapsing over him with harsh, tearing sobs that seem to come from some primal place beyond conscious thought. Brother Thomas leads her away eventually. You learn later that Master Hugh has arranged for her to receive Jacob's full wages a month, plus a small pension. Unusual generosity for a construction death. She'll need it for the child. Master Hugh says when you thank him, we're not monsters, William. Whatever the peasants think, we look after our own. But Jacob's death leaves a mark on you. It's different from the foundation, collapsed somehow. Those men were faceless to you. Tragic deaths, but abstract. Jacob was someone you knew, if only slightly. Someone with a name, a pregnant wife, a future that will now never happen. That night you can't sleep. You slip out of the barracks and walk to the construction site, eerily silent under a half-moon. The castle walls rise like the bones of some massive beast, all sharp angles and deep shadows. Couldn't sleep either? You spin around, startled to find Master Hugh sitting on a stack of stone blocks, a jug of wine beside him. No, Master. You hesitate, then ask the question that's been haunting you. How do you bear it? All the deaths. Master Hugh takes a long drink before answering. I remember the purpose. This castle isn't just for the king's vanity. It will protect this entire region for centuries. The deaths now save countless lives later. Does that really help? Some days he offers you the wine jug. Other days I just drink until I can't see their faces anymore. You take a swallow of the wine. Better quality than you've ever tasted. Jacob wasn't the first. Master Hugh continues, won't be the last. Every castle costs lives, William. The stones demand blood. It's always been so. You stare up at the unfinished walls, thinking of all the castles you've seen in your life. Had each one been built on sacrifice like this? How many nameless workers died so that lords and ladies could live in stone fortresses? I keep a list, Master Hugh says quietly. Every man who dies under my command, their names, how they died, someone should remember them. This surprises you. Master Hugh has always seemed pragmatic to the point of coldness. The revelation of this private ritual of remembrance shows a different side of the man. I'd like to see it someday. You say, the list. If you stay in this trade, you'll start your own soon enough. He reclaims the wine jug. Now go get some sleep. Tomorrow we start on the gatehouse foundations, and I need you clear-headed. The next weeks blur together in a haze of constant activity. The workforce swells as more specialized craftsmen arrive. Blacksmiths to forge iron fittings, lead workers for roofing, carpenters for the interior structures. The temporary town around the castle grows accordingly, sprouting new buildings almost daily. You find yourself acting more as Master Hugh's deputy than just as assistant. He trusts you to oversee entire sections of the work, while he focuses on planning the next stages. You move constantly between different teams, solving problems, smoothing conflicts, ensuring the complex dance of construction continues without pause. The weather turns colder. The first snowflakes appear, sending a ripple of concern through the site. Winter will soon halt most of the stonework, as mortar can't set properly in freezing temperatures. There's a push to complete as much as possible before the real cold sets in. The pressure leads to longer hours and more accidents. A laborer loses 2 fingers to a dropped stone. A carpenter falls and breaks his leg. A blacksmith is badly burned when his forge spits hot metal. Through it all, the castle continues to rise. One evening, as darkness falls and the workers begin to drift toward the temporary town, Master Hugh calls you to the drawing lodge. Inside, the plaster floor is covered with new designs, detailed plans of the great hall that will sit inside the keep. What do you think? He asks, gesturing to the drawings. You study them carefully. The hall is magnificent. High ceilings with elegant windows and a massive fireplace. But something strikes you as odd about the support structure. The roof beams, you say hesitantly. They seem too widely spaced to span. Master Hugh smiles like a proud father. Good eye. I was testing you. He points to another drawing. This is the actual plan. Closer spacing. Additional supports here and here. Why test me on this? Because I'm old, William, and getting older. He straightens with a grimace, rubbing his lower back. This castle will take at least 10 more years to complete. I won't see it finished. Don't say that. It's truth, not pessimism. He fixes you with a steady gaze. I'm training you to take my place when the time comes. The statement leaves you speechless. To become a master mason is your dream, but you'd expected it to take decades more of learning and practice. I'm not ready. You finally managed. Not yet, but you will be. Master Hugh rolls up the parchment drawings. You have the eye, the mind, and the heart for it. The rest is just experience. And I intend to give you as much of that as I can before I'm too decrepit to climb these walls. As you leave the drawing lodge, a sense of both pride and terror fills you. The responsibility of becoming Master Hugh's successor is enormous. Lives will depend on your decisions, your calculations, your understanding of stone and stress and weight. But there's pride, too. Pride that Master Hugh sees something in you worth nurturing, worth trusting with his life's greatest work. You look up at the castle walls, now looming dark against the night sky. So much has happened since that first day when you arrived as a simple journeyman. You've seen death and ingenuity, cruelty and kindness. You've begun to understand the true cost of these stone giants, not just in gold, but in blood and sweat and lives. And you've risen with the walls, gaining responsibility and knowledge with each course of stone. The castle has shaped you as surely as you've helped shape it. Tomorrow brings new challenges. The gatehouse, the great hall, the towers, winter weather. But tonight, under the cold stars, you allow yourself a moment of quiet pride. You're a part of something that will outlive you by centuries. Something that will stand as a testament to human skill and determination long after your name is forgotten. A legacy written in stone. Winter descends on the castle site with brutal efficiency. The first ray of snow falls in late November, putting an immediate halt to all masonry work. Mortar won't set in freezing temperatures, a fact of nature that no king's command can override. Most of the masons and skilled craftsmen depart for the winter months, heading home to their families or seeking indoor work in nearby towns. But the castle construction doesn't stop entirely. It merely changes form. Most people think building stops in winter. Master Hugh tells you as you trudge through knee-deep snow toward the quarry. The fools. Winter is when we prepare for spring. The quarry lies 3 miles from the castle site, a massive gash torn into the hillside. Even in winter, it's a hive of activity. Men in heavy furs swing picks and hammers, breaking apart the exposed stone face. Others use iron wedges and sledges to split the larger chunks into manageable blocks. The sound is deafening, a constant rhythmic clanging that echoes off the quarry walls. Simon, Master Hugh calls to the quarry master. How goes it? Simon is a barrel-chested man with arms like tree trunks and a beard that reaches almost his waist. His face is permanently etched with stone dust, giving him a ghostly appearance. Slow but steady, he replies, clasping Master Hugh's arm in greeting. The cold makes the stone harder to work, but also makes it cleaner when it splits. You've never seen the quarrying process up close before. It's fascinating and terrifying at once. Men dangle on ropes down the sheer quarry face, hammering in wedges at seemingly random intervals. Others work at ground level, using long iron bars as levers to pry loose sections that have been split. We're looking at the spring requirements. Master Hugh tells Simon. The king wants a curtain wall completed by summer's end. Simon snorts. The king wants the moon on a platter. 2, I'd wager. But I'll do what I can. He turns to you. Your apprentice, my successor. Perhaps, Master Hugh says, surprising you with this public acknowledgement. William needs to understand every part of the process, especially the parts most masters never see. Well then, young William, let me show you how we pull stone from the earth. For the next several hours, Simon leads you through the quarry, explaining every stage of the process. You learn how they identify the best stone veins, how they use the natural faults and bedding planes to minimize work, how they mark each block for its intended purpose. The stone tells us what it wants to be, Simon says, running his hand lovingly over a freshly split block. This one has fine grain with no flaws. It'll be a facing stone, perhaps even carved work. That one there, he points to a rougher block, has good strength, but poor surface. It'll go inside a wall when no one sees it. The respect Simon shows for his material reminds you of Master Hugh's reverence for his craft. These aren't just men doing jobs. They're almost priests of their vocations. How many stones does the castle need? You ask. Trying to grasp the scale, Simon laughs. Thousands upon thousands. I've been quarrying for this castle for 3 years. Might be another 5 before we're done. The magnitude of the operation staggers you. Each block must be cut, shaped, transported, and placed. Each one represents hours of backbreaking labor, and there are thousands. The real challenge isn't cutting the stone. Simon continues as you watch a team of men load a massive block onto a wooden sledge. It's getting it to the site. As if to demonstrate his point, 8 oxen are now being hitched to the sledge. The block on it must weigh several tons. In summer, we use the river when we can, Simon explains. Barges can carry 10 times what a wagon can, but the river's too low now and often frozen, so it sledges and oxen all winter. You follow the ox team as they begin the slow journey back toward the castle site. On the snow, the sledge moves relatively easily, but progress is still painfully slow. The oxen strain against their harnesses, breath steaming in the cold air as they drag their massive burden inch by inch. The teamster walks alongside, occasionally cracking a whip over the oxen's backs, but mostly coaxing them with a steady stream of encouragement. Good beasts are worth more than good men on a job like this. The teamster tells you when you fall in to step beside him. A man might work hard for a day or two, then slack off. An ox pulls with everything it's got until it drops dead. You watch the massive animals, their muscles rippling beneath shaggy winter coats, and silently agree. No human could match their raw power and endurance. The journey back to the castle takes most of the day, though the distance is short. When you finally arrive, the sun is already setting, casting long shadows across the snow-covered construction site. Where does the stone go now? You ask the teamster. To the mason's lodge for now. He nods toward a large wooden structure near the edge of the site. They'll work it all winter, shaping it so it's ready for spring. Inside the mason's lodge, it's surprisingly warm. Several braziers burn steadily, their smoke escaping through a hole in the roof. A dozen or so masons who stayed to the winter are at work, chisels ringing against stone as they shape rough blocks into precisely dimensioned pieces. Master Hugh leads you around explaining the process. Each stone must be cut to exact measurements. The facing stones need smooth surfaces. The arch segments need perfect angles. Nothing can be rushed. You watch one mason working on what appears to be part of a window and brazier. His chisel moves with astonishing precision, each tap removing exactly the amount of stone needed. No more, no less. It will take him days to finish this one piece. This is why winter is so valuable. Master Hugh says, without the pressure to build, we can focus on getting each piece exactly right. That night, you dine with Master Hugh in his house, a rare privilege. His winter quarters are humble but comfortable with a good hearth and actual glass in the windows. His table is set with pewter plates rather than wooden trenchers, and the food is several steps above what's served in the workers' barracks. Over surprisingly good venison stew. Master Hugh explains the next day's agenda. We'll visit the lime kilns tomorrow. You need to understand mortar production if you're ever to become a master. Is that what you did as an apprentice? Learn every aspect of the work. Master Hugh chuckles. Not formally. No, I learned by doing, by failing, by watching. There was no master generous enough to show me the entire process. He takes a drink of wine. That's why I'm showing you, so you don't have to make all the mistakes I did. The next morning dawns brutally cold. The breath freezes in your beard as you walk beside Master Hugh toward the lime kilns, located a mile from the main site. Even before you can see them, you can smell the kilns, an acrid burning odor that makes your eyes water and your throat constrict. Then you hear them, a low, constant roaring like some beast breathing fire. When you crest a hill, the kiln complex comes into view. 3 large stone structures shaped like truncated cones belch smoke into the winter sky. Men scurry around them like ants around a disturbed nest, feeding fuel into the fires, monitoring temperatures, loading fresh limestone, and removing processed quicklime. Impressive, isn't it? Master Hugh says, those kilns have been burning continuously for 2 years. They'll keep burning until the castle is complete. The heat radiating from the kilns is incredible. As you approach, the biting cold of the winter morning gives way to an almost summer-like warmth. The workers strip to their tunics despite the snow all around them. The kiln master is a thin, weathered man named Edwin with permanently reddened eyes from the smoke and lime dust. He greets Master Hugh with obvious respect. Come and check on your mortar supply, he asks. And to educate my assistant, Master Hugh replies. William needs to understand the full process. Edwin nods and beckons you closer to one that kills. The heat becomes almost unbearable. Simple enough in theory. Edwin shouts over the roar of the fire. We layer limestone and fuel, wood, or coal inside the kiln. Fire hot enough and the limestone changes, drives off something inside it. What's left is quicklime. You peer cautiously into kiln's opening. Inside it glows orange-white with heat. Men are adding more fuel, their faces shiny with sweat, their movements quick and precise. A mistake here could mean horrible burns. The trick is the temperature. Edwin continues. Too cool, the limestone doesn't convert fully. Too hot, it becomes useless. We need to keep it between 8 and 900 degrees day and night without instruments. How do you know the temperature? You ask. Edwin grins, revealing several missing teeth. By color, by sound, by smell. After 20 years, your body knows, even if your mind doesn't. He leads you to where the processed quicklime is being unloaded from another kiln. Men with long iron tools pull out what look like white hot rocks, dropping them into metal containers. Dangerous stuff. Quicklime, Edwin warns. It burns flesh worse than fire if it's fresh from the kiln. Even after it cools, it can blind you if it gets in your eyes. And when water hits it, he makes an explosive gesture with his hands. Violent reaction heats up enough to boil water or set with a light. You watch as other workers carefully add water to cooled quicklime in a slaking pit, causing it to hiss and steam dramatically. The resulting paste, slaked lime, will form the basis of the mortar that will hold the castle together. We mix it with sand and water to make mortar. Edwin explains, different ratios for different uses. Foundations need stronger stuff than what we use between facing stones. By the time you leave the lime kilns, your clothes reek of smoke and caustic lime dust. Your throat is raw from fumes, but you've gained a new appreciation for the complex chemistry that goes into making the castle's mortar. How does one become a kiln master? You ask Master Hugh as you walk back toward the main site. Slowly and painfully, he replies. Most kiln workers start as fuel carriers, then graduate to stokers. Only the most observant and careful ever get to manage a kiln. He glances at you. It's not a path I'd recommend. Most don't live past 40. The fumes destroy the lungs. You think of Edwin's reddened eyes and raspy voice. How many years does he have left? Every part castle building demands sacrifice, Master Hugh says, as if reading your thoughts. The quarrymen's backs, the kiln workers' lungs, the mason's hands. We all give something of ourselves to the stone. The following weeks are an education unlike any you received before. Master Hugh takes you to every part of the vast supply network that feeds the castle construction. You visit the carpenter's yard where massive oak trunks are split and shaped into beams, braces, scaffolding, and crane parts. The head carpenter shows you how they select trees for different purposes, straight tall oaks for main beams, curved pieces for braces, flexible woods for certain specialized tools. You tour the blacksmith's forge where iron is heated and hammered into thousands of nails, hinges, brackets, and tools. The head smith, a giant of a man named Oswald, demonstrates how they recycle broken tools, melting them down and reforming them rather than wasting precious iron. You visit the rope makers who twist hemp fibers into the essential cordage that powers every lifting device on the site. They show you how different thicknesses and weaving patterns create ropes for different purposes. Some optimized for strength, others for flexibility. Each visit reveals a new facet of the vast operation. Each expert shares knowledge that's been accumulated over generations of specialized work, and slowly you begin to understand the incredible complexity of the castle supply chain. One snowy afternoon, you're summoned to an unfamiliar building near Master Hugh's house. Inside, you find an orderly space filled with tables covered in parchments, abacuses, and writing implements. A thin, precise-looking man sits at the central table, hunched over a large ledger. William, meet Master Philip, Master Hugh says, the clerk of works. The thin man looks up, regarding you with shrewd eyes. So this is your protege. William has been learning the physical aspects of castle building, Master Hugh explains. Now he needs to understand the administrative side. Master Philip gestures to a stool. Sit, watch, learn, but touch nothing. For the next several hours, you observe as Master Philip manages the lifeblood of the castle construction, money. He receives reports from foremen, allocates funds for materials, authorizes payments to workers, and maintains meticulous records of every penny spent. The king provides the funds, Master Philip explains, without looking up from his ledger, but I decide how they're used. Master Hugh tells me what he needs. I determine if we can afford it. You begin to understand the power this unassuming man wields. Without his approval, no stone moves, no mortar mixes, no wall rises. How much has the castle cost so far, you ask? Master Philip glances at Master Hugh, who nods permission. As of yesterday's accounting, 16,427 pounds, 4 shillings. He says this without consulting any record, the figure apparently memorized. The sum is so vast you can barely comprehend it. It's more money than you'd see in a 100 lifetimes as a mason, and we're perhaps 1/3 complete, Master Philip adds. Though the most expensive parts, the interior finishing, the lead roofing, the glazing are yet to come. Later, walking back to the barracks through gently falling snow, you ask Master Hugh, is it worth it? All that money for one building. Master Hugh is quiet for a long moment. That's not for me to judge. The king believes it necessary. But consider this, that money employs thousands, feeds families, supports entire communities. The castle is as much about that as it is about defense or royal prestige. It's a perspective you hadn't considered. The castle isn't just consuming resources. It's also distributing them, creating a temporary economy that benefits far more people than just the eventual inhabitants. As winter deepens, your education continues. You learn about the logistics of feeding hundreds of workers, the challenges of maintaining discipline in the winter camp, the complex relationships between the castle construction and the surrounding communities. You watch Master Hugh balance competing demands, speed versus quality, cost versus durability, the king's wishes versus physical reality. Every decision requires weighing multiple factors, often with incomplete information. On the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, work halts for a rare holiday. Even the lime kilns bank their fires. Workers who remain through the winter gather for a feast, modest by noble standards, but lavish compared to normal fare. Ale flows freely. Music and singing continue late into the night. You find yourself sitting with what? The former laborer you helped promote to mortar mixer months ago. He's done well, rising to become an assistant to the head mortar maker. Never thought I'd make it this far. He tells you, cheeks flushed with ale and firelight. Figured I'd die a laborer like my father. You've got a good eye for consistency, you reply. That's rare. All thanks to you giving me a chance. He raises his cup to moving up in the world. You clink cups and drink, wondering where what might end up. Perhaps someday he'll be a master in his own right. As the festivities wind down, you notice Master Hugh sitting alone, staring into the bonfire. You join him, saying nothing, just sharing the moment of quiet amidst the celebration. I won't see another winter here, he says finally. You look at him sharply. What do you mean? My bones ache, William. Every morning it gets harder to rise. My eyes aren't what they were. He takes a drink. The king has agreed I can retire after the spring laying season. Someone else will finish the castle. The news hits you like a physical blow. But there's so much left to do. The keep, the great hall, the inner gates, all designed already. He taps his temple. All here and all on parchment now. 2. The next master will have the plans. Who will it be? The next master. Master Hugh looks at you directly. That depends on you. The coming season is your test. If you're ready by summer, I'll recommend you to the king. You stare at him in disbelief. Me? But I'm not even a master mason yet. Titles are just words. Skill is what matters. He pokes at the fire with a stick. Besides, I was younger than you when I got my first castle commission. The possibility is both thrilling and terrifying. To become Master Mason for a royal castle would be a meteoric rise, but the responsibility would be crushing. One mistake, one miscalculation, and walls could collapse, men could die, your reputation would be ruined. I don't know if I'm ready, you admit. No one ever does, Master Hugh replies. But spring is coming. The walls will rise again, and you'll rise with them or you won't. He stands, joints audibly creaking. Get some rest. Tomorrow we plan the spring work, and I need your eyes clear. As he walks away, you remain by the fire, watching the flames dance against the winter night. Around you, the castle site slumbers under its blanket of snow, waiting for spring to awaken it once more. You think of everything you've learned over the winter, the vast network of specialists and suppliers, the complex logistics, the administrative machinery that turns royal gold into stone and mortar and timber, and you wonder if you truly can master it all by summer. The enormity of castle building has never been clearer to you. It's not just about stacking stones or directing workers. It's about orchestrating 1,000 moving pieces, balancing competing needs, making decisions that will last for centuries. Are you ready? Perhaps not. But as Master Hugh said, spring is coming. The walls will rise again, and you with them or not. Spring arrives reluctantly, teasing with warm days followed by bitter cold snaps. But eventually the ground thaws enough for masonry work to resume. The castle site, dormant to the winter months, explodes into frenzied activity. Hundreds of workers return from their winter sojourns, and the temporary town swells to 3 times its winter size. For you, spring brings new responsibilities. Master Hugh makes good on his promise, putting you in charge of the western curtain wall construction. It's a test, and you know it. Your performance here will determine whether he recommends you as his replacement. The first major task is erecting the scaffolding that will allow masons to work on the higher sections of wall. The existing walls stand about 12 feet high, but the plans call for it to rise another 20 feet before the battlements are added. Scaffolding kills more men than anything else on a castle site. Master Hugh warns you. 1 weak joint, 1 rotten board, 1 missing rope, and men fall. And men who fall from height don't often survive. You take his warning to heart as you oversee the carpenter team assembling the scaffold structure. Every joint is checked twice. Every rope is tested. Every board is inspected for flaws. The scaffolding grows like a wooden skeleton against the stone wall. Vertical posts sunk into ground. Horizontal beams lashed to them with hemp rope. Wooden planks laid across the beams to create walkways. And most importantly, horizontal beams extending from the wall itself, their ends inserted into holes in the masonry called put-log holes. The put-logs are the key, explains Edward, the head carpenter. They support the inner edge of the scaffolding. Without them, the whole thing would be unstable. You've seen put-log holes in completed castles before, but never understood their purpose. Now you watch as masons deliberately leave these square openings in the wall as they build. Some will be filled in later, others left as evidence of the construction process. As the scaffolding rises, your anxiety rises with it. You find yourself checking and rechecking connections, testing boards by walking on them yourself before allowing workers up, constantly looking for weaknesses in the wooden structure. You can't eliminate all risk, Master Hugh says, watching your obsessive inspections. You can only manage it. But the consequences of failure are so dire that you can't bring yourself to relax your vigilance. The image of Jacob the carpenter, broken and dying after his fall, is still too vivid in your mind. The first day of high work arrives. The scaffolding now rises 20 feet above the ground on the outer side of the wall, with multiple levels connected by wooden ladders. A team of masons will work on each level, laying the next courses of stone as the wall grows higher. You climb the scaffold first, testing each rung of the ladder, each bore of the walkway. The structure creaks and sways slightly under your weight, but holds firm. From the top level, you can see the entire castle site spread out below you, the completed sections of curtain wall, the foundations of the keep, the temporary town bustling with activity. It's exhilarating and terrifying at once. One wrong step, one moment of dizziness, and you plummet to your death. The masons follow you up, bringing their tools. They seem unconcerned by the height, joking and bantering as they prepare for work. You realize most have done this many times before. First time up high, asks Gilbert, one of the older masons, noting your white knuckle grip on the scaffold post. Is it that obvious? He laughs. Everyone's afraid at first. After a while, you forget to notice. You're not sure you believe him. How could anyone ever forget the yawning space beneath their feet? The knowledge that a single misstep means death. The work begins. Stone blocks are hauled up from below using a simple rope and pulley system attached to the scaffolding. Mortar is carried up in buckets. The masons work with impressive speed and precision, setting each block, checking it for level, tapping it into perfect position. You move along the scaffolding, inspecting the work, offering guidance when needed. Each step is taken with deliberate care each time the wind gusts, sending the wooden structure swaying slightly. Your heart jumps into your throat. By midday, you've grown somewhat accustomed to the height. Your movements become more natural, less stiff with fear, but your respect for the danger never diminishes. You watch the workers constantly alert for any sign of carelessness. For water, you call down to the ground crew. The day has grown hot, and dehydration on the scaffolding is dangerous. Men who grow dizzy from thirst might lose their balance. Buckets of water are sent up, and work pauses briefly as the men drink. You use the moment to check the scaffolding again, testing joints, examining ropes for wear. You worried too much, Gilbert tells you, wiping his mouth after a long drink. The scaffold is solid. I'd rather worry too much than mourn another dead man. You reply. Work resumes. The wall grows steadily, one course of stone at a time. Each new course requires the scaffolding to be adjusted. New put logs inserted into fresh holes in the masonry, new planking laid. Late in the afternoon, as the shadows lengthen, you hear a sharp crack from somewhere below, then shouts of alarm. You rush to the inner edge of the scaffolding and look down. On the level below, a section of planking has broken. A mason hangs from the edge, clutching desperately at the broken board, his feet dangling over the 20-foot drop. Without thinking, you grab a coil of rope from nearby and toss one end to Gilbert. Hold this. Then you swing yourself down to the lower level, using the rope as a safety line. The mason hanging from the broken planking is young, barely more than an apprentice. His face is white with terror, his knuckles bloodless where they grip the splintered wood. Hold still, you tell him, trying to keep your voice calm despite your pounding heart. I'm going to pull you up. You stretch out flat on the intact section of planking and extend your arm toward him. Grab my hand. He stares at you frozen with fear. Look at me, not down, you say firmly. Grab my hand now. Something in your tone penetrates his panic. He releases one hand from the broken board and reaches for you. Your fingers touch, slip, then lock together. Got you. You grunt, using all your strength to pull him upward. For a moment, you fear you're not strong enough. Then Gilbert is beside you, grabbing the boy's tunic, and together you haul him to safety. The three of you collapse on the scaffold, breathing hard. Thank you, the young mason gasps. I thought I was dead. You examine the broken plank. It had a hidden flaw, a knot in the wood that wasn't visible from above. The weight of the mason had been enough to snap it. Who inspected this section? You demand, anger replacing fear now that the danger is past. I did, stammers the young mason. I didn't see any flaws. You want to berate him for his carelessness, but the genuine terror in his face stops you. He's learned his lesson in the most visceral way possible. Instead, you order the entire scaffold level re-inspected and all planking replaced. When you finally climb down a day's end, your legs are shaking, as much from the aftermath of fear as from physical exertion. Master Hugh is waiting at the bottom. I heard what happened, he says, quick thinking with the rope. You shrug. not trusting yourself to speak yet. It was bound to happen, he continues. There's always something that gets missed, some flaw that goes unnoticed. What matters is how you respond. I'm replacing all the planking, you tell him. Every board on every level. I don't care how long it takes. He nods approval. Good. Expensive in time and materials, but cheap compared to men's lives. That night, you can't sleep. Every time you close your eyes, you see the young mason dangling over empty space, his life literally in your hands. You slip out of the barracks and walk to construction site, drawn by some need to reassure yourself that the scaffolding still stands, that tomorrow's work can proceed safely. The castle is eerily beautiful under the full moon. The partially completed walls cast sharp shadows across the ground. The scaffolding rises like a strange wooden growth against the stone, its shadows forming a complex lattice. Couldn't sleep either. You turn to find what approaching a clay jug in his hand. No, too much on my mind. He offers you the jug. Cider might help. You take a swallow. It's good, tart and strong. Thanks. Heard about the accident today. What says could have been bad? Could have been a funeral, you agree grimly. But it wasn't because you were there. He takes the jug back. Word spreading about how you handled it. The men are talking. Talking what? That maybe Master Hugh is right. Maybe you are ready to take his place. The vote of confidence from the workers surprises you. You've been so focused on earning Master Hugh's approval that you hadn't considered how the ordinary craftsmen and laborers would view your promotion. I nearly lost a man today. You say, that's not a mark of readiness. But you didn't lose him, what points out. And tomorrow you're replacing all the planking, aren't you? That's what makes a good master, learning from close calls, not ignoring them. His words echo Master Hugh's, and you find yourself wondering if perhaps they're right. Perhaps readiness isn't about perfection, but about how you handle the inevitable problems. The next day, true to your word, you have every plank in the scaffolding replaced with fresh, carefully inspected timber. It costs a full day of work, drawing a disapproving visit from Master Philip, the clerk of works, who questions the expense. But you stand firm, backed by Master Hugh. As the wall continues to rise over the following weeks, the scaffolding rises with it, 25 feet 30. Each new level brings new challenges and dangers. Wind becomes a serious concern. At 30 feet up, a strong gust can unbalance a worker or blow tools off the platform. You institute a rule. When the pennant atop Master Hugh's house stands straight out in the wind, high work stops. Rain, too, becomes a deadly hazard. Wet planking turns slippery as ice. After a worker slides off the edge, saved only by his fall being broken by a lower scaffold level, you order work halted at the first drop of rain. These safety measures aren't popular with everyone. Some of the veteran masons grumble about lost work time. Master Philip complains about delays to the schedule. Even some of the laborers paid by the day resent missing wages when work stops. They'll complain more they're dead is your unsympathetic response. One particularly vexing problem is the transport of mortar to the highest levels of scaffolding carried in buckets up the narrow ladders. Too much spills in what arrives is often begin to set, making it difficult to work with. After watching the masons struggle with this for several days, you devise a solution. A simple wooden trough that runs from ground level up to the work area, with a series of small windlasses to control the flow. Fresh mortar can now be poured in at the bottom and drawn up as needed, arriving in perfect consistency. Clever, Master Hugh comments when he inspects your invention. Simple but effective, the mark of good design. The walls continue to rise course by course, day by day. The west curtain wall, your responsibility, now keeps pace with the other sections despite your extra safety measures. The masons have adapted to your methods, finding efficiency elsewhere to make up for the time lost to weather delays. By early summer, the curtain wall stands nearly complete, lacking only the battlements and finishing touches. The keep foundation is prepared, ready for its walls to begin rising. The gatehouse is taking shape, its massive arches already visible. Master Hugh calls you to the drawing lodge one evening. As the sun sets inside, you find him poring over parchment drawings of the keep interior. "We need to think about the Great Hall," he says without preamble. "The king wants it larger than originally planned. That means redesigning the roof supports." You study the drawings. The Great Hall is to be a magnificent space, 40 feet long, 20 feet wide, with a soaring timber roof. The king's request for additional size means the roof beams will need to span a greater distance. "We'll need thicker principal rafters," you say, tracing the roof structure on the parchment, and additional collar beams here and here. Otherwise, the weight will push the walls outward over time. Master Hugh nods approval. "My thoughts exactly. Draw up the modifications. I'll review them tomorrow." It's another test, you realize. Master Hugh is gradually handing over more of his responsibilities to you, seeing if you can handle them. Later that night, by candlelight in the corner of the barracks you claimed as your own, you carefully draw the modified roof design. Your training didn't include much formal drawing, but you've watched Master Hugh enough to understand the principles. Your lines are less confident than his. Your proportions perhaps not as elegant, but the structural elements are sound. When you present the drawings to Master Hugh the next morning, he studies them in silence for what feels like an eternity. Finally, he looks up. The collar beam placement is good. The thicker rafters necessary, but you've overlooked something. He points to where the rafters meet the wall. The wall plate needs reinforcement here, or the weight will crack the stonework. You study where he's pointing and immediately see he's right. In focusing on the roof structure itself, you've neglected its connection to the walls. "I've made a note," Master Hugh says, showing you his correction. "Otherwise, it's well done. The king will approve it." The mixture of praise and criticism is typical of Master Hugh. Just enough encouragement to keep you motivated, just enough correction to keep you humble. As summer progresses, your confidence grows along with your responsibilities. Master Hugh increasingly delegates decisions to you, stepping in only when absolutely necessary. The workers have grown accustomed to taking orders from you directly, seldom questioning your authority. The scaffolding, once a source of terror, has become merely another workplace hazard to be managed. You still inspect it rigorously, still enforce your safety rules without exception, but the fear that once gripped you has faded to a healthy respect. One blazing hot afternoon, as you're inspecting the nearly completed battlements atop the western curtain wall, you find Master Hugh already there, standing at the very edge, looking out over the surrounding countryside. "Beautiful view," he says as you join him. "One forgets working down in the dirt. What we're really creating here, not just walls and towers, but a new landmark. This castle will define this landscape for centuries. From 30 feet up, you can see for miles in every direction. The castle site, once just a bare hill, has been transformed. The outer curtain wall forms a massive stone ring. Within it, the inner walls are taking shape, and the foundations of the keep rise from the center like the beginnings of a stone mountain. It's magnificent, you agree, and it's not even half finished. No, but the hardest part is done. Master Hugh turns to face you. The foundations are solid, the curtain wall nearly complete. The rest is, he waves his hand, details. You laugh. Details that will take another 5 years, perhaps. He gazes at you thoughtfully. But not my years. I've spoken with the king. He's agreed to my retirement at the end of this month and to my recommendation for my replacement. Your heart beats faster. And you will be the new master mason if you accept. He holds up a hand to forestall your response. Think carefully before you answer. This is not just an honor. It's a burden. Every decision, every mistake, every triumph and tragedy from this point forward will be yours to bear. You look out over the vast construction site, thinking of all you've learned since that first day when you arrived as a simple journeyman. The foundation trenches, the scaffolding, the logistics and materials, the lives lost and saved. Master Hugh has shown you every aspect of castle building, preparing you for this moment. Are you ready? Perhaps not entirely, but whoever is. I accept, you say, your voice steadier than you feel. Master Hugh nods, satisfaction evident in his weathered face. Good. We'll inform the king together. He extends his hand. Congratulations, Master William. As you clasp his hand, you feel the weight of responsibility settling on your shoulders, heavier than any stone, more binding than any mortar. But there's pride, too, and determination. The castle will rise, and now it will rise under your direction. From your high perch atop the curtain wall, you look down at the workers below, tiny figures moving like ants across a construction site. They don't know yet that soon you'll be their master, that their lives will be in your hands more directly than ever before. The thought is sobering, but as the summer breeze cools your face and the solid stone beneath your feet reminds you of all you accomplished, you find a strange peace in the challenge ahead. This castle, this stone giant rising from the earth will bear your mark now. For better or worse, for triumph or tragedy, it is becoming yours. Your first day as Master Mason dawns clear and bright, as if the heavens themselves approve of your promotion. You rise earlier than usual, dressed in your best tunic, still plain by noble standards, but clean and well mended, and walk to construction site with your heart hammering against your ribs. Word of your appointment has spread overnight. As you approach, workers pause in their tasks, watching you with expressions ranging from curiosity to skepticism to outright resentment. At 27, you're young for such responsibility. Some of the craftsmen have been working their trade since before you were born. Master Hugh, now simply Hugh, as he's reminded you to call him, meets you at the drawing lodge. His personal possessions are already packed, ready for his departure tomorrow. Ready? He asks simply. No, you admit, but I'll do it anyway, he laughs. Good answer. Come, I've arranged something special for your first day. He leads you to the east side of construction site, where work on the keep foundations is complete. Now the walls of the central fortress must begin to rise, and for that you'll need to lift massive stones higher than ever before. The keep stones are larger than what we use for the curtain wall. Hugh explains. Some weigh as much as a ton. The simple pulley systems won't suffice. You nod, understanding the problem, immediately. The methods used to raise stones for the 30-foot curtain wall. Simple rope and pulley arrangements operated by men pulling from below lack the power for the keep's requirements. The keep will eventually rise to over 60 feet with walls thick enough to withstand the most determined siege. So what's the solution? Hugh grins. It arrived yesterday. I've been saving it for this moment. Rounding a stack of cut stones. You see it? The largest, most complex machine you've ever encountered. A massive wooden crane that towers over surrounding scaffolding and work huts. God in heaven, you breathe. The crane consists of a tall wooden beam anchored to a rotating base. From its top, a long arm extends outward at an angle, supported by sturdy ropes. But the truly remarkable part is the lifting mechanism. A gigantic wooden wheel easily 12 feet in diameter with steps built into its interior circumference. A treadwheel crane, Hugh says with evident pride. The Romans used similar devices, but this design comes from the cathedral builders of France. It can lift the heaviest stones to the full height of the keep. Workers are already swarming around the crane, making final adjustments under the direction of a short, barrel-chested man with an enormous beard. He approaches as he sees you and Hugh. Ah, Master Hugh. She's ready for testing. His accent marks him as Flemish, one of the many foreign specialists brought in for their particular expertise. Master Peter, this is William, the new Master Mason. Hugh introduces you. William. Peter is the finest crane engineer in Europe. I've been trying to hire him for 3 years. Peter gives you an appraising look. So young. HM. Well, Hugh has good judgment in most things. Come see how she works. He leads you around the crane, explaining each component with the enthusiasm of a proud father. The tread wheel is the heart of the machine. Men walking inside it provide the power to turn the drum that winds the lifting rope. The boom can swing through a wide arc, allowing stones to be picked up from the ground and deposited precisely where needed on the wall. How many men does it take to operate it? You ask, studying the massive wheel. Depends on the weight, Peter replies. For the heaviest stones, 8 men inside the wheel, 2 to operate the brake, 1 to direct. So 11 total. You do the mental calculations. 11 men per crane, operating continuously throughout the day. That's a significant labor commitment. But the alternative is trying to drag massive stones up ramps, slower and possibly more dangerous. Let's test it, Hugh suggests. We have those cornerstones ready. The cornerstones for the keep are the largest single pieces in the entire castle. Massive blocks specially cut to form the perfect 90 degrees angles upon which the entire structure depends. Each weighs close to a ton. Workers attach heavy hemp ropes to the first cornerstone, threading them through an iron hook hanging from a crane's boom. Other men climb into the tread wheel, taking positions on the steps inside. Reddy calls Peter. Walk. The men in the wheel begin to walk, their weight causing the wheel to rotate. The drum turns, winding the rope, and slowly, incredibly, the massive stone begins to rise from ground. It's a wonder to behold. A stone that would require 40 men to drag up a ramp now rises smoothly through the air, guided by just a few hands. The men in the wheel strain with the effort, their faces reddening, but the mechanical advantage of the tread will multiplies their strength tenfold. Stop. Peter calls when the stone hangs 6 feet above the ground. Hold steady. The men in the wheel freeze in place, holding the stone suspended. Peter shows you the brake mechanism, a simple but effective arrangement of wooden blocks that can be tightened against the wheel rim to hold it in position. Now we swing, Peter explains, directing men to push the boom around its pivot point. The suspended stone describes a slow arc through the air. Remarkable, you murmur. With this device, the keep walls can rise much faster than would otherwise be possible. Hugh nods, watching your reaction. This is the future of castle building, William. Machines that multiply men's strength. Learn from Peter while you can. He's only contracted for 3 months. The demonstration continues as they lower the stone back to the ground. The entire operation is controlled, precise, efficient, but you can't help noticing the dangers. If a rope frays, if the brake fails, if the wheel slips, the results will be catastrophic. What safety measures do you use? You ask Peter. He tugs his beard thoughtfully. The main rope is checked twice daily for wear. The brake is tested before each lift, and we never stand under suspended load. He shrugs. Beyond that, we trust in God and good craftsmanship. Not entirely reassuring, but as with every aspect of castle building, some risk is unavoidable. Over the next days, you work closely with Peter and his team, learning every detail of the crane's operation. 3 more such devices arrive, each requiring assembly and testing before being put into service. With 4 tread wheel cranes operating simultaneously, the keep walls begin to rise at an unprecedented rate. But the increased pace brings new challenges. Coordinating the cranes to avoid collisions, ensuring a steady supply of stones to keep the machines operating continuously, managing the growing number of masons needed to set the stones once they're lifted into position. 2 weeks into your new role as master mason, disaster strikes. You're inspecting a newly laid course of stones in the northeast corner of the keep when shouting erupts from the nearest crane. Looking up, you see a massive stone, one of the largest yet, swinging wildly as it's lifted. Something is wrong with the rope attachment. Stop the wheel, you shout, rushing toward the crane. Lower it down. But it's too late. With a sound like a whip crack, one of the attachment ropes snaps. The stone lurches violently to one side, now hanging precariously from a single rope. Workers scatter as it swings in an unpredictable arc. The men in the tread wheel, sensing the problem, try to lower the stone quickly to the ground. But in their panic, they lose control of the wheel. It spins backward, the stone plummeting. When it hits the ground, the impact shakes the entire construction site. The remaining rope snaps from the sudden shock, and the stone slides several feet before coming to rest against a scaffold support. For a moment there's silence, then groans from inside the tread wheel. In their attempt to stop the wheel's reverse spin, several men have been injured, thrown against the wheel's structure or each other. You race to help, pulling men from the wheel one by one. Mostly minor injuries, bruises, sprains, one broken finger. But one man lies ominously still, blood seeping from a wound on his temple where his head struck a wooden brace. "Get Brother Thomas," you shout, referring to Monk who serves as the site's physician. Quickly, as workers rush to fetch help, you kneel beside the injured man. Martin, one of the more experienced crane operators. His breathing is shallow, his face pale. "Hold on, Martin," you urge, pressing the cloth to his bleeding head. Help is coming. By nightfall, the immediate crisis has passed. Martin lives, though Brother Thomas says his skull is cracked and he may never fully recover. The crane is damaged but reparable. The stone miraculously harmed no one in its fall, though it could easily have crushed multiple workers. In your quarters, you've moved into Hugh's old house now, a privilege and burden of your new position. You sit alone, a cup of wine untouched before you. The accident replays in your mind. What could you have done differently? How can you prevent similar incidents? A knock at the door interrupts your brooding. It's Peter the crane engineer. "May I?" he asks, gesturing to the chair opposite yours. You nod. Pour him a cup of wine. "I've examined the rope that broke," he says after taking a drink. "It was cut nearly halfway through before the lift began." The implication takes a moment to register. "Cut? You mean deliberately?" Peter nods grimly. "A clean slice right where it would be hidden by the attachment point. No rope frays that way naturally." The knowledge hits you like a physical blow. Someone at the construction site, one of your own workers, sabotaged the crane, not caring who might be killed as a result. But why? Who would do such a thing? Peter shrugs. You're young for a master mason. Some resent that. Others might have expected the position for themselves when Hugh retired. You think of the faces you've seen over the past weeks, the skepticism, the resentment, but you never imagined it would extend to sabotage and potential murder. What do we do? You ask. Check everything, Peter advises. Every rope, every joint, every mechanism, and watch the men. The saboteur will reveal himself eventually. Sleep eludes you that night. By dawn, you've made your decision. You gather all the workers before work begins, standing atop a platform so all can see you. Yesterday, we nearly lost men to sabotage, you announce without preamble. Someone deliberately cut a crane rope, not caring who might die as a result. A murmur runs through the crowd. Some faces register shock, others carefully blank. I don't know who did this, you continue, and I won't waste time trying to find out. Instead, here's what will happen. From now on, every rope, every piece of equipment will be checked by 3 different people before use. Each checker will mark the inspection sheet with their name. If something fails that was marked as safe, those 3 will answer for it. The workers exchange glances. Your solution places responsibility on the inspectors rather than trying to find the culprit. Furthermore, you add, I understand some may resent my appointment. That's your right. But endangering lives is unacceptable. If anyone has a problem with me, face me directly. I'll meet any challenge openly. It's a bold statement bordering on a physical challenge, but you sense it's necessary to show strength to demonstrate you won't be intimidated. Now get to work. You conclude, we have a castle to build. As the crowd disperses, what approaches you? Brave speech, he says quietly, but you've made yourself a target. I already was, you reply. At least now it's in the open. The new inspection system takes time to implement, slowing work initially, but gradually a new rhythm establishes itself. Each morning, teams of 3 check every piece of equipment, marking their inspection sheets. The cranes, scaffolding, ropes, and tools are examined with unprecedented thoroughness. No more sabotage occurs. Whether your speech deterred the culprit or the new system makes sabotage too difficult, you can't be sure. But work proceeds without further incident. The tread wheel cranes prove their worth as the keep walls rise steadily. The massive stones that form the core of the structure could never have been placed without these ingenious machines. You develop a deep appreciation for their mechanical elegance, for how they transform human muscle power into lifting capacity far beyond what would otherwise be possible. But you never forget the human cost. The men who walk inside the wooden wheels for hours each day emerge exhausted, their legs trembling with fatigue. Some develop strange repetitive injuries, shoulder pain, knee problems, foot ailments unique to crane operators. You institute a rotation system limiting how long any man works in the wheel to 2 hours at a stretch. Some complain about the reduced pay, but the overall productivity improves as fresher workers make fewer mistakes. By midsummer, the keep walls stand 15 feet high around the entire perimeter. The arched doorways are complete. Their precisely cut voussoirs locked together without mortar, held by geometry and gravity alone. One evening, as the sun sets behind the western hills, you stand in what will eventually be the Great Hall, envisioning the finished space. Wooden beams will span overhead, supporting a high-peaked roof. Windows will pierce the thick walls, letting in light. A massive hearth will dominate one end large enough to roast an ox. Dreaming, Master William, you turn to find Robert, the head of the rough masons, watching you with an amused expression. He's one of the older craftsmen with decades of experience who initially seemed most skeptical of your appointment. Planning, you correct him, trying to see it complete. In my mind, he nods, understanding. Hugh did the same. He could see the finished castle before a single stone was laid. Coming from Robert, the comparison to Hugh is high praise. Have I proven myself yet? You ask directly. Robert considers the question seriously. To some, others still wait for your fail. He shrugs. It was the same for Hugh when he started. Youth always has to prove itself to age. And what do you think? I think you handled the sabotage well. Didn't waste time hunting witches. Found a practical solution. He gestures to the rising walls around you, and the work continues. That's what matters in the end. His approval, grudging though it might be, means more than he likely realizes. Robert's influence among the craftsmen is considerable. If he's beginning to accept your leadership, others will follow. The next challenge comes from an unexpected direction. A messenger arrives from the king bearing a royal decree. You're summoned to the palace to discuss modifications to the castle design. The journey takes 3 days on horseback. You've never been to the royal court before, and the grandeur is intimidating. Marble floors polished to a mirror shine. Tapestries larger than the entire barracks at the construction site. Courtiers in silk and velvet who look at your plain woolen tunic with barely disguised disdain. The king himself is less intimidating than his surroundings. Edward Longshanks is a practical man when it comes to his castles. He asks detailed questions about construction progress, listens attentively to your answers, and seems genuinely interested in the technical challenges. Then he drops his bombshell. We want larger windows in the Great Hall. He announces, like those in Westminster with tracery and colored glass. Your heart sinks. The keep walls are already rising with the small defensible windows specified in the original plans. Larger windows would mean tearing down completed sections and rebuilding them with additional support structures. Your Majesty, you begin carefully. Such windows would significantly weaken the defensive capabilities of the keep. The castle is for more than defense. The king replies, it's a symbol of our power, our sophistication. Dark, narrow windows suggest fear. Large, beautiful windows project confidence. You can't argue directly with the king, but neither can you, in good conscience, compromise the castle's structural integrity. What if we added a separate great hall? You suggest connected to the keep, but with its own thinner walls that could support larger windows. The keep itself will remain fully defensive. The king considers this, stroking his beard, additional cost. Some, you admit, but less than rebuilding existing walls. and we can complete it faster. Draw up the plans, he commands. I'll review them when I visit the site next month. Returning to the castle with this new challenge, you spend night after night in the drawing lodge, sketching possible designs for the separate Great Hall. It's the most complex architectural problem you've faced so far, requiring a perfect balance of beauty, structural stability, and defensive capability. When the design is finally complete, you show it to Peter, whose engineering expertise you've come to trust. It will work, he pronounces after studying the drawings. The buttresses here, and here will counter the outward thrust from the roof. The window tracery is complex but achievable. He points to the connection between the new hall and the existing keep. This is clever defensible. I can be sealed from either side if needed. The king's visit comes too soon for your comfort, but you're as prepared as possible, to your relief. He approves the modified design with minimal changes. Construction on the new Great Hall will begin immediately, running parallel to the ongoing work on the keep. This means dividing your workforce, establishing new material supply chains, and effectively managing two major projects simultaneously. The complexity of your job has just doubled, but as you stand amidst the controlled chaos of the construction site, watching the tread wheel cranes swing their massive loads through the air, seeing the keep walls rise course by course, you feel a surge of confidence. 6 months ago, you were a journeyman mason concerned only with cutting and placing individual stones. Now you oversee hundreds of workers, manage multiple construction projects, and consult directly with the king. The castle is rising from the earth, stone by massive stone, and you are rising with it. Autumn arrives with a painter's palette. The surrounding forest transformed into a tapestry of red, gold, and bronze. The castle site, too, has transformed. The keep now stands 20 feet high, its thick walls defining the central fortress. The separate Great Hall foundation is complete, ready for its walls to rise. The curtain wall is finished, except for small sections of battlements. Your position as master mason feels less precarious now. Most of the initial resistance has faded as the work progresses smoothly under your direction. Even Robert, the skeptical head of the rough masons, now brings problems to you with something resembling respect. Today's challenge is the mortar for the Great Hall windows. The king's demand for large, ornate windows requires a special formula, stronger than ordinary wall mortar, but with longer working time to allow the complex stone tracery to be set precisely. You stand at the mortar mixing area, watching as Edwin, the lime master, experiments with different mixtures. The basic formula hasn't changed since Roman times. Slaked lime, sand, and water, but the proportions and additives make all the difference. We need something that sets strong, but not too quickly, you tell Edwin. The window tracery is complex. Masons need time to adjust the stones. Edwin nods, his hands white with lime dust as he mixes small test batches. I've got some ideas. Been adding crushed brick to some batches. Romans use it for waterproof work. Makes the mortar set harder. You watch as he prepares another test mixture, carefully measuring powdered lime and specially sifted sand. To your surprise, he adds a splash of sour wine to the mix. Wine? You question. Edwin grins. Old trick. The acid does something to the lime, makes it more workable. He continues mixing, adding water gradually, and this he sprinkles in what looks like animal blood. Helps it resist cracking as it dries. The resulting mortar is smoother, creamier than the standard mix used for wall construction. Edwin spreads a small amount between two pieces of stone and hands it to you. Let that sit overnight. See how it holds. The alchemy of mortar making has always fascinated you. What appears to be simple mud is actually a carefully balanced mixture of materials, each chosen for specific properties. The right mortar can make the difference between a wall that stands for centuries and one that crumbles within decades. Next morning, you test Edwin's sample. The stones are firmly bonded, yet when you apply pressure at an angle, they separate cleanly, perfect for the adjustments needed in setting the tracery stones. This is excellent, you tell him. Make enough of the first window arch. We'll test it in actual construction before committing to the full batch. With the mortar problem solved, you turn your attention to another critical aspect of the Great Hall construction, the specialized stonework required for the window tracery. In the Mason's Lodge, a separate area has been set aside for the Freemasons, the elite stone cutters who handle the most complex decorative work. Their current project is carving the elaborate window pieces that will create the tracery pattern specified in your design. The lead Freemason, Jeffrey, shows you their progress on the tracing floor, a smooth plaster surface. He has drawn the window design at full scale. The Masons use these drawings as templates for cutting the actual stone. We're using the finest oolitic limestone, Jeffrey explains. It cuts cleanly and weathers well. You examine the partially completed stone pieces. Each is carved with astonishing precision, curves flowing to points, complex geometric patterns emerging from solid blocks. Craftsmanship is extraordinary. How long for the first complete window? You ask. 3 weeks for cutting all pieces. Another week for assembly. You nod, mentally adjusting your construction schedule. The windows are critical to the king's vision for the Great Hall. They must be perfect. Jeffrey hesitates, then asks, "There's something I wanted to discuss, Master William, about the mason's marks. Every skilled mason has a personal mark, a simple geometric design. They carve into the stones they work. It serves as both signature and quality control, allowing each man's work to be identified. What about them? Some of the men want to place their marks on the visible faces of the window tracery for recognition. You understand the impulse. The window tracery is the most beautiful skilled work in the entire castle. A mason's mark visible on the finished surface would be a point of pride, a permanent record of who created this artistry. But it would also disrupt the clean visual lines of the design, drawing attention to individual stones rather than a harmonious whole. The marks stay on the hidden faces, you decide, as they always have. Jeffrey looks disappointed, but not surprised. I'll tell them, but you add, I'll commission a parchment record, every mason's name, and mark documenting who created each window. It will be kept in the castle archives. This compromise seems to satisfy him. The masons' artistry will be documented, their names preserved, even if their marks remain hidden within the structure itself. As you leave the masons' lodge, you reflect on the unique position these craftsmen hold. They're not just laborers, but artists, their skills developed through years of training. The castle's beauty depends on them as much as its strength depends on the rougher work of wall building. The next day brings a different challenge, one that takes you back to the quarry. Simon, the quarry master, has sent word of a problem with the stone being cut for the Great Hall columns. The journey to the quarry takes most of the morning. When you arrive, Simon leads you to a section where workers are cutting large cylindrical drums that will be stacked to form the hall's columns. "Look at this," he says, pointing to a freshly split block. A dark line runs through the stone, a flaw invisible from the outside, but revealed when the block was cut. Iron deposit, Simon explains, runs through this whole section of the quarry, weakens the stone, and will rust over time, staining everything around it. You examine the flawed stone, then look at the quarry face. The iron deposit is subtle, just a slightly darker band running through the otherwise cream-colored limestone. Easy to miss if you're not looking for it specifically. Have any flawed stones already been sent to the site? You ask, dreading the answer. Possibly, Simon admits. We only noticed when we started cutting the column pieces, which need to be perfect all the way through. This could be disastrous. Columns built with flawed stones might collapse under the weight of the roof. Even if they held, the eventual rust stains would be unsightly in the King's Showcase Hall. We need to check every stone from this section of the quarry. You decide, both here and any already delivered. It's a mammoth task. Hundreds of stones will need inspection. Some may already be built into walls, but there's no alternative. I'll assign my best men to help identify the flawed material. Simon promises we can mark the good stone from unaffected areas with a special symbol to distinguish it. Back at the castle site, you organize teams to inspect all recently delivered stone. It's slow, painstaking work. Some blocks need to be broken to check for internal flaws. Each confirmed good piece is marked with red ochre to indicate it's been cleared for use. The inspection reveals 12 flawed blocks already incorporated into the Great Hall foundation. They'll have to be removed and replaced, a frustrating setback that will delay the project by at least a week. That evening, exhausted from the day's crisis, you find what waiting outside your quarters. Now the overseer of the mortar mixing operation. He's risen far from the labor you first helped promote. Heard about the stone problem? He says as you invite him in. Tough break. You poured 2 cups of ale, handing him one. Could have been worse. Better to find it now than after the roof's in place. True enough. He takes a drink. But that's not why I'm here. There's something you should know about the mortar for the eastern section of the keep. A new problem. You suppress a groan. What about it? Edwin's been sick these past 3 days. His assistant, Randolph, has been mixing the batches. What hesitates? I don't trust his work. The consistency is wrong. Too much sand, not enough lime. I've seen him skimp on the mixing time, too. This is serious. Poor mortar might not show its weakness for years, but eventually it would compromise the entire structure. Have the walls already been laid with this mortar? 2 days' worth, about 8 feet of the east wall, 3rd level. You rub your temples, feeling a headache building. We'll have to take it down and rebuild every stone. What nods grimly? I thought you'd say that. And Randolph, what about him? Is he cutting corners out of laziness? Or is there more to it? What considers this? Hard to say, but he was close with Martin, the man injured in the crane accident. They're cousins, I think. The implications are clear. This could be another act of sabotage, more subtle than cutting a crane rope, but potentially more devastating in the long term. I'll speak with him tomorrow. You decide. For now, mark off that section of wall. No more work there until I've inspected it myself. Sleep comes fitfully that night, your mind turning over the dual problems of flawed stone and suspicious mortar. By dawn, you made decisions about both. The flawed stone is straightforward. Every questionable piece must be removed and replaced regardless of delay and cost. You will personally explain the situation to Master Philip, the clerk of works, whose budgetary concerns are secondary to structural integrity. The mortar situation requires more delicate handling. If Randolph has deliberately compromised a mixture, direct confrontation might drive the sabotage underground, making it harder to detect. Better to watch and gather evidence. You begin by inspecting the suspect section of wall. Even to your experienced eye, the mortar looks acceptable from the outside, but when you poke a thin metal rod into a joint, it penetrates far deeper than it should in properly mixed mortar. The material is weak, crumbly. Take it down, you instruct the mason team. Every stone, and save samples of the mortar for comparison. They look unhappy at the prospect of redoing finished work, but no one argues. The safety implications are clear to everyone after the crane incident. Next, you visit the mortar mixing area, timing your arrival to catch Randolph in the midst of preparing a batch. You watch from a distance as he measures ingredients, noting how he rushes the mixing process and adds less lime than Edwin's formula specifies. Rather than confront him immediately, you approach casually as if making a routine inspection. How's Edwin? You ask, studying the mortar mixture with a critical eye. Still abed, Master William. The fever is down, but he's weak. Randolph wipes sweat from his brow, despite the cool autumn air. And you're managing the mixing well enough. Yes, Master, just as Edwin taught me. The lie comes easily to his lips. You consider calling him on it immediately, but decide on a different approach. Good, but I'm concerned about consistency across batches. From now on, I want samples taken from each mix, labeled with a date and your mark. We'll test them regularly. Randolph's expression flickers. Alarm quickly masked. As you wish, Master. and I'm assigning what to oversee all mortar production until Edwin returns. He'll check each batch before it's cleared for use. This effectively removes Randolph's opportunity for sabotage without directly accusing him. The evidence of his tampering is preserved in the wall section, being dismantled should you need it later. What, informed of his new supervisory role, understands the unspoken instructions. I'll watch him like a hawk. He promises quietly. The stone and mortar crises occupy much of your attention for the next week. The flawed quarry stone is systematically identified and removed from the site. The compromised wall section is dismantled and rebuilt with proper materials. Randolph, under what's constant supervision, has no choice but to mix mortar correctly. Through it all, construction continues on other parts of the castle. The treadwheel cranes swing their massive loads from dawn till dusk. Masons tap away at stones, their hammers creating a constant rhythmic backdrop to site activity. Carpenters prepare roof beams and door frames. The castle rises day by day despite setbacks and sabotage attempts. One crisp morning, as frost crunches beneath your boots during your daily inspection, you notice something odd about a newly laid section of the keep wall. The stones are perfectly cut and placed, the joints precise, but something about the pattern seems wrong. You study it more closely and realize what's bothering you. The stones are arranged to form a subtle shape, not immediately obvious, but definitely intentional. A crude image of a hanged man. It's the work of a skilled mason using the natural variations in stone color and size to create the image. To most observers, it would appear as random patterning, but to your trained eye, the deliberate arrangement is clear. Another message from whoever resents your position, or simply a mason's dark humor hidden in plain sight. You decide not to draw attention to it. The wall section is structurally sound, and removing it would only delay progress. Let the hidden hanged man remain, a secret message embedded in the castle walls. Future generations might discover it and wonder at its meaning. This incident reminds you of something Hugh once told you. Castles keep their builders' secrets. Every structure contains hidden marks, private jokes, small acts of rebellion or devotion. The mason's marks concealed on unseen faces, the occasional carved initial in a dark corner, the deliberate asymmetry only the builder would notice. These human touches, invisible to casual observers, are as much a part of the castle as its grandest features. They connect the building to the hundreds of individuals whose labor created it, whose blood and sweat soak its stones. As autumn deepens toward winter, the work pace intensifies. There's much to complete before masonry work must pause for the cold months. The keep walls now stand 30 feet high in most sections. The great hall walls are rising rapidly with the first window openings taking shape. The specialized window tracery stones are ready for installation. You spend a day with Jeffrey and his Freemasons as they assemble the first great window. It's a painstaking process. Each precisely cut stone must be positioned exactly. The geometric patterns align perfectly. The special mortar gives them working time to make small adjustments, ensuring every joint is tight, every curve smooth. This is the finest work I've ever done. Jeffrey confides as the tracery takes shape. It will still be standing centuries after we're dust. If we do our job right, you agree? Oh, we are. He runs a hand lovingly over a carved stone curve. Stone doesn't lie or cheat, Master William. Treat it with respect. Understand its nature, and it will hold true longer than any man's lifetime. By sunset, the window is complete, a stone-lace work of stunning beauty. As the last light of day shines through it, casting elongated patterns across the ground, you feel a deep satisfaction unlike anything you've experienced before. This is why you build, not just for defense or royal prestige, but to create something beautiful that will outlast you, something future generations will look upon with wonder, perhaps never knowing your name, but touched by your work nonetheless. That night, you write a letter to Hugh, now retired to a small estate granted by the king, in recognition of his decades of service. You describe the progress, the challenges overcome, the beauty of the first completed window. You don't mention the sabotage attempts or the flawed stone. No need to worry the old master with problems already solved. As you seal the letter with wax, you realize how much you've changed since Hugh first took you under his wing. The naive journeyman is gone, replaced by a master mason who understands not just the technical aspects of castle building, but the human complexities as well. The management of personalities and talents, the balance of quality and speed, cost and durability. You've learned to see beyond individual stones to the entire structure, beyond a day's work, to the legacy that will stand for centuries. You become what Hugh saw in you years ago, a worthy successor to his knowledge and vision. Outside, the first snow of winter begins to fall, dusting the rising castle walls with white. Soon, the mortar work will pause until spring, but there's still much to do during the cold months, cutting stone, preparing timber, planning the next phase of construction. The castle rises stone by stone through all seasons, through setbacks and triumphs, and you rise with it, growing into the master you were meant to become. 5 winters and 5 summers have passed since you first arrived at the castle site as a journeyman mason. 5 years of blood and sweat and stone. 5 years of deaths and births, triumphs and failures. Storms, whether both literal and figurative. You stand now on the highest tower of the completed keep, 60 feet above the ground, surveying your creation. The castle sprawls beneath you, a massive stone organism of walls and towers, gates and bridges, halls and chambers. From this height, you can see the entire structure as a unified whole rather than the thousands of individual elements that occupied your daily attention during construction. The morning sun catches the colored glass of the great hall windows, sending jeweled light dancing across the courtyard. Smoke rises from kitchen chimneys. In the outer bailey, soldiers drill in formation, their armor glinting. The castle is no longer a construction site, but a living, functioning fortress. "Quite a view," says a voice behind you. You turn to find Hugh, your old master, making his way slowly up the last few steps to the tower top. He's visibly aged in the years since his retirement. Hair now completely white, back more stooped, movements more deliberate, but his eyes remain sharp as ever. "It's good to see you, Hugh," you say, genuinely pleased. "What brings you from your comfortable retirement?" "The king's coming, isn't he? Thought I'd see the finished product before His Majesty claims all credit for it." He joins you at the parapet, gazing out over the castle. "You've done well, William. Better than I expected, if I'm honest." Coming from Hugh, this is extraordinary praise. You feel a flush of pride warmer than any summer sun. "We had problems, you admit. Some I wrote to you about. Others I didn't want to burden you with. There are always problems." Hugh says dismissively. "The measure of a master is how he solves them." He points to the great hall with its magnificent windows. That was a clever solution. Separate structure, defensive connection to the keep, best of both worlds. You walk the tower perimeter together. Hugh asking occasional questions about specific features. How you manage the keystone placement in the gate arch. How you resolve the drainage issues in the eastern bailey. How you incorporate the king's ever-changing demands without compromising structural integrity. And the men, he asks finally, how did you handle them in the end? You think of the sabotage attempts, the resentment that greeted your appointment, the challenges to your authority. "I earned their respect," you say simply. "Not all at once, not all of them, but enough." Hugh nods, understanding the journey compressed into those few words. And now the king comes to claim his castle. Prepared for that as much as one can be. The royal visit scheduled for the following day has consumed the castle's attention for weeks. Every stone has been scrubbed, every surface polished. The great hall is hung with tapestries and banners. The keep chambers are furnished with the finest pieces available. Even the stables have been mucked out and strewn with fresh straw, scented with herbs. Hugh studies your face. You know he'll find something to criticize. Kings always do. You shrug. Probably, but the castle stands. It's strong. It's beautiful. It will outlast his complaints. That's the right attitude. Hugh approves. Remember, kings come and go. Stone remains. That evening, a feast is held for all who worked on the castle, from the lowliest laborers to the most skilled craftsmen. It's your gesture of appreciation paid for from your own purse. Now considerably fuller after 5 years as master mason. The great hall lit by hundreds of candles shines with the glory of its completed state. The high-timbered ceiling, the magnificent windows, the perfectly cut stone walls. Trestle tables run the length of the hall, laden with more food than most workers see in a month. Roast beef and pork, fresh bread, cheeses, fruits preserved from last autumn's harvest. Ale flows freely, music plays, pipe and drum and string. Men who toiled together for years celebrate the culmination of their shared labor. You sit at the head table with Hugh beside you and the various master craftsmen arranged by rank. Geoffrey the head Freemason, Robert the rough mason chief, Peter the crane engineer who stayed long past his contracted 3 months, Simon the quarry master, Edwin the lime master, and others who contributed their specialized skills to the castle's creation. Notably absent is Randolph, whose sabotage of the mortar was eventually proven beyond doubt. He disappeared from the site after you confronted him with evidence, never to be seen again. You sometimes wonder what became of him, whether his bitterness found another target or eventually burned itself out. Midway through the feast, what approaches the head table, somewhat unsteady from ale, but determined. He's risen far from the labor you first helped promote, now overseeing all mortar production for the final stages of construction. Master William, he says with a slight bow, the men have something for you. He signals, and several workers bring forward an object covered with a cloth. They place it on the table before you and remove the covering with a flourish. It's a model of the castle, exquisitely crafted in miniature. Every wall, every tower, every gate reproduced in perfect scale. You recognize the work of many hands. The carpenter's skill in the base and framework, the mason's precision in the tiny stone blocks, even the blacksmith's craft in the miniature metal fittings. We all contributed, what explains. Even the laborers carried the smallest stones. Everyone wanted to be part of it. You're speechless, running a finger over the delicate model. The amount of work represented is staggering. Hundreds of hours stolen from sleep and rest periods and done in secret, somehow kept from your knowledge despite your daily presence throughout the site. Thank you. You managed finally, looking at the assembled workers. This is beyond words. It was Geoffrey's idea. What says, nodding toward the head. Freemason said you should have something to remember us by when you move on to your next castle. The next castle. You haven't thought much about it, so consumed with completing this one. But of course there will be more. Your reputation is made now. Kings and lords will seek your services. This castle, magnificent as it is just the first of what could be many under your direction. The feast continues late into the night. Stories are told, songs sung, old grievances forgotten in the glow of collective achievement. Men who once cursed each other over dropped tools or slow work now laugh together, bound by the shared experience of having built something monumental. You observe it all with a curious sense of detachment, as if already looking back from some future vantage point. These men, from the humblest laborer to the most skilled craftsman, have been your world for 5 years. You know their strengths and weaknesses, their fears and aspirations. You've seen some die, others crippled, many grow from untrained boys to confident artisans. And tomorrow, with the king's arrival, this world dissolves. The construction team will scatter, some to other building sites, some back to farms or villages, some to uncertainty. The castle will pass to its permanent garrison and household, a different kind of community with different purposes. You're looking melancholy. Hugh observes, returning to his seat beside you after speaking with old acquaintances. Having regrets. You shake your head. Not regrets, just awareness of transition. Ah, he understands immediately the post-completion feeling. I know it well. 5 years of single-minded purpose suddenly fulfilled. It leaves a void. Exactly. You're grateful for his understanding. Who else could comprehend this strange mixture of triumph and loss? It passes, Hugh assures you, especially when the next challenge presents itself. Morning dawns clear and cold, a perfect autumn day for the king's arrival. From your chamber window, you can see the royal procession approaching, a long snake of horses, soldiers, courtiers, and wagons winding up the valley toward the castle. You dress with care in your finest clothing, still simple by noble standards, but made of good wool and cut well. Around your neck hangs the silver chain of your office as Master Mason, presented by the king himself when you were officially appointed. The castle gate opens to admit the royal party. Trumpets sound. Soldiers stand at attention. Every detail has been planned and rehearsed for this moment, when the king first sees his completed fortress. Edward Longshanks, tall and imposing despite his 60 years. His once red hair and beard, now streaked with gray, rides through the gate on a massive black warhorse. His gaze sweeps the castle walls, the towers, the bailey where he's received. You can read nothing from his expression. The formal ceremonies begin. The king is welcomed by the castle's new constable. Speeches are made. Keys are symbolically presented. Through it all, you stand to one side, neither noble enough to be central to proceedings, nor low enough to remain entirely in the background. Eventually, the king requests a tour of his new fortress. This is your moment. As Master Mason, you will guide him through the castle, explaining its features, answering his questions, accepting his judgment on your work. Your Majesty, you begin as the tour starts. The castle design incorporates all the latest offensive innovations, while also providing the comfort and grandeur befitting your royal status. For the next 2 hours, you lead the king and his entourage through every significant part of the castle. The massive gatehouse with its multiple portcullises and murder holes, the outer and inner baileys, the barracks and stables, the keep with its secure chambers, and finally the great hall with its spectacular windows. The king asks penetrating questions throughout, revealing a deep understanding of military architecture. He notices details others would miss. The slight angle of the arrow loops to maximize defensive coverage, the carefully planned fields of fire from the towers, the hidden access routes that allow defenders to move between positions without exposure. In the great hall, he stops before one of the magnificent windows, studying the stone tracery with its complex geometric patterns. Exceptional workmanship. He comments, "Who created these?" Geoffrey, your Majesty, and his team of Freemasons. 5 years apprenticeship, plus 10 as journeymen before they could attempt work of this quality. The king nods. "Find this, Geoffrey. I have other projects that could use such skill." Your chest swells with pride for your craftsmen. Royal recognition is rare and precious. Geoffrey's future is secured with those few words. The tour concludes in the keep's great chamber, where a meal has been prepared. As you make to withdraw, the king gestures for you to remain. "Master William," he says, when the servant have left and only his closest advisors remain, "your work here exceeds expectations. This castle is both beautiful and formidable, precisely what we required. Thank you, your Majesty." You bow, relief and pride mingling in your chest. "We are planning a new fortress on the northern border, more extensive than this one, more challenging terrain. We would have you oversee its construction." The offer isn't unexpected. Hugh predicted it, but hearing it directly from the king still sends a thrill through you. Another castle, a greater challenge. Royal favor confirmed. "I am honored, your Majesty." When would this project begin? Next spring. The site is being surveyed now. He turns to one of his advisors. Show him the preliminary reports. Maps and parchments are produced. Rough sketches of a coastal headland where the new castle will stand. You study them with professional interest, already seeing potential approaches, challenges, opportunities. It can be done. You confirm, though, the coastal position presents certain difficulties, which is why we need the best. The king says simply, "You'll have a larger budget than for this castle and more men. The meeting continues, details discussed, arrangements made. By the time you leave the king's presence, your future is secure for at least the next 7 years. The estimated time to complete the new, larger castle. The rest of the day passes in a blur of ceremonies and celebrations. The king formally dedicates the castle. The local nobility pay homage. The castle's permanent garrison takes up its duties. Amidst it all, you find yourself increasingly peripheral. Your role effectively concluded with the completion of construction. That evening, as the royal banquet unfolds in the great hall, you slip away unnoticed. There's one last thing you need to do before you consider your work truly complete. You make your way to a small plain building near the outer wall, the castle's chapel. Inside, by candlelight, you approach the simple stone altar. From inside your tunic, you would draw a parchment scroll carefully tied with ribbon. It's the list you began 3 years ago, following Hugh's example. The names of every man who died during the castle's construction. 47 names. 47 lives given to raise these walls. You unroll the scroll on the altar and read each name silently. John crushed when a foundation trench collapsed. William, not you. Another William fallen from scaffolding. Peter killed by a snapped crane rope. Tom is dead from infected wounds after a chisel slip. And on and on. Some were careless. Some were unlucky. Some were simply in the wrong place at the wrong moment when stone or timber or fate turned against them. All were part of the castle's creation. Their blood and breath as much a component of its structure as lime and sand and stone. I remember them. You whisper to the empty chapel. Their names, their faces, their sacrifice. You leave the scroll on the altar. Tomorrow, the castle chaplain will read the names during a memorial service, and the scroll will be sealed into a niche in the chapel wall, a permanent record of those who died to build this fortress. Outside, the night is clear and cold, stars pricking the black sky like distant candles. You walk the perimeter of the outer wall one last time, your footsteps echoing on stone you helped lay. From this ground-level perspective, the castle looms enormous above you, its walls and towers blocking out sections of the star-filled sky. 5 years of your life, countless decisions, problems solved, challenges overcome, lives lost and saved, all culminating in this stone giant that will stand for centuries, sheltering generations yet unborn, withstanding attacks yet unlaunched, witnessing a future you'll never see. Was it worth it? The deaths, the injuries, the backbreaking labor, the political maneuvering, the constant pressure and responsibility. Looking up at the solid walls gleaming in the moonlight, you think it was not just the castle itself, though its beauty and strength justify much, but for what it taught you about leadership, about materials, about human nature, about yourself. You arrived a skilled journeyman. You leave a master in truth, not just in title. As you complete your circuit of the walls, you find Hugh waiting near the gate, wrapped in a heavy cloak against the night chill. For final inspection, he asks with a knowing smile, something like that. I did the same the night before I left. Needed to say goodbye properly. He gestures to the surrounding walls. They become part of you, these creations. Or perhaps we become part of them. Hard to tell sometimes. You nod, understanding perfectly. Will it be the same with the next castle and the one after that? Each is different. Each takes something from you and gives something back. Hugh gazes up at the tower silhouetted against the stars. But the first is special like a first love. Together you walk slowly back toward the inner bailey. Two master masons united by shared experience few others could comprehend. I left a list in the chapel. You tell him all the names, all the deaths. Good. They should be remembered. He pauses and adds, I did the same. My list had 63 names. I had 47. You did better than I did then. There's no bitterness in his voice, just acknowledgement of a painful truth. Still too many. Yes, always too many. You reach the keep where your respective chambers await. Tomorrow will bring the formal handover of the castle to its permanent constable. The day after, You'll begin preparation for your journey to the northern coast and your next great project. Get some rest? Hugh advises. The king will want you sharp for tomorrow's ceremonies. As he turns to go, you ask the question that's lingered in your mind since his arrival. Why did you really come back, Hugh? Just to see the castle. He looks at you, his weathered face softened by the torchlight. To see what you made of yourself. William. The castle, yes, but mostly you. The simple honesty of his answer touches you deeply. This man who found you as a journeyman, who taught you, tested you, trusted you with his life's work. He came to witness your triumph, to see his faith in you justified. Thank you, you say, meaning it for far more than just his presence here tonight. Hugh merely nods, understanding all you don't say. Good night, Master William. That night, as you lie in your chamber, sleep comes more easily than you expected. Perhaps it's the physical and emotional exhaustion of the day. Perhaps it's the satisfaction of completion, of approval, of success, hard-won and well-deserved. Or perhaps it's simply that for the first time in 5 years, the weight of the castle no longer rests on your shoulders. The stones are laid, the walls stand strong, the work is done. As consciousness fades, you seem to hear the castle itself. Not just the normal creaks and settlings of a large structure, but something deeper, the whispers of all who built it, who died for it, who poured their skill and strength into its creation. They speak through the stone, through the mortar, through the timber and lead and iron. They tell of struggle and triumph, of pain and pride, of simple workers whose hands shaped something magnificent and eternal. Their whispers follow you down into dreams, a chorus of forgotten voices preserved in stone. And as you drift deeper into sleep, you realize that long after your name is forgotten, these walls will still stand, silent testament to human skill and sacrifice, to the masons and laborers and craftsmen who built not just with stone and mortar, but with blood and sweat and dreams. The castle endures, and in its stone so do they.